Hi everyone, this is Cooper with a quick introduction to this framework that we're developing to recognize and reward contributions to the commons. The problem we're addressing here is known as the tragedy of the commons, and in the modern context, this classic problem translates to the knowledge space, where we see every incentive for everyone in the world to benefit from a global knowledge commons, but very little incentive for individuals or their institutions to maintain them. My own background in this space was in the open science space, where we see any number of amazing projects that are working towards their shared goal of creating open access, free information to the world's scientific literature. But the trouble is that there's so many of these projects, and they're all working as isolated silos, doing things in their own way. And because there's a limited set of resources, money, people available to these projects, at some level it means that they're ultimately competing and obstructing progress towards their common goal. And as a leader of an open science project myself, this got me thinking, what would it take for me to put aside my differences with these other projects and work together to collaborate towards our common goal of open access? And I realized that if there were a common framework that each of these communities could use to record, recognize, and reward contributions that advance their common goal, then they could start to cooperate and coordinate more effectively, share resources, form interconnections, and then eventually could potentially even form a super organization that could not only achieve their goal of open access, but could very quickly expand to solve other problems in open science like open data, open code, open materials, and so on. And because this organization and the processes they create would be open science based, they would be radically transparent, replicable, and could very quickly spread to other commons oriented communities, like those that are supporting community and the world that we live in. And around 2.5 years ago, I started to get the feeling that academia was not a safe enough space to prototype these relatively radical ideas. And so my friends and I founded a community called Open Heart and Mind. And since then, we've been using the safe space of gift-based festivals to test, prototype, and explore this model. And so over the last 2.5 years, we've hosted multiple gatherings, and every time we've collected some data and used it to test the model, refine our processes. And ultimately what we've ended up with is a very simple but flexible paradigm that I believe could apply to literally any community in the world and allow them to transparently review and assign value to the contributions to that community. Now, in the past couple of years, we've also done a bunch of other things, and I've learned a very big lesson about trying not to do everything all at once. But the upshot of this is that towards the end of last year, I got around to finalizing the analysis of one of the data sets that we collected at a gathering called TinyOM, and I presented that at a meta science and open science conference called AMOS in November. Now that has now spawned a new prototype where we're using the exact same framework, but an updated version of it to recognize and reward contributions to the conference itself. And just recently, I presented the same framework to a community gathering called Vibe, and that has spawned another prototype for that use case. And so I'll take you through the 6 main stages of the framework now. The first stage is record. And this really is up to the community to decide what they want to consider the boundaries around their contributions. It could literally be used to review anything. So at Open Heart and Mind, we have been reviewing our festivals, so DJ sets, art pieces, food that people make, and so on. But in an academic context, you could be reviewing papers, code, and so on. And another important thing at this stage is for the community to get together and decide what values they want to embed into the system and rate these contributions on. And we've evolved to select a single primary dimension for every community, and that is gratitude, on the basis that gratitude is relatively universal and could apply to any type of contribution. But beyond that, the community could decide for themselves what types of dimensions make sense for them and the contributions that they want to recognize. Now, the review phase is where it gets really interesting. This is where we use a pairwise comparison protocol. And what that means is that we give reviewers a pair of contributions and simply ask them to rate or pick one of those contributions on each dimension of interest. So for example, which of these two contributions, a DJ set or this piece of art, are you most grateful for? Now, what's tricky is that we also do meta reviews. So there is a role called a meta reviewer, and that person might be asked to compare a regular contribution to reviews themselves. So for example, we might ask someone to compare a DJ set to 100 pairwise comparisons. And what that means is for the meta reviewer to think about how long and how much energy it took for one reviewer to sit there and click these buttons for 100 times, comparing pairs, compare that to the energy and input of the DJ set and make that decision. And the reason that's important is because it allows us then to scale the relative value of every single contribution around the value of one of these single reviews. And we do that by assigning one token for every review, and that token represents a unit of gratitude expressed from the community that are effectively saying, thank you for doing that review. Reviews are really important and we need them to figure out the relative value of things. And now that we know that, say, 100 reviews was voted 15 times, then it gives us a way to regress and find the relative value of a single review. And we can use that function that we've created to now interpolate the value of every other contribution. And we can do that for gratitude. So we now have a measure for every single contribution on the scale of gratitude, but we can also do it for every other dimension that the community is interested in. And what this creates then is a multi-dimensional matrix that represents all of the qualities of every contribution according to those values that the community think are worth voting on. And then when we start with this high signal information set, then we can use that to create the foundation of our society. And so the next obvious step is to reward people. And at what we're doing is mapping the rewards directly onto the gratitude dimension. This might get more complicated, but for now, we're just keeping things simple. And what this means is that the tokens that we call omnoms are a direct measure of the collective gratitude for each contribution. And it's really up to the community to decide how those tokens get used. So the community might decide to subtract the average cost of an event from everybody's tally. And what that gives you then is a balance that shows who were the givers and the receivers to that particular event. And those people that end up with an excess of tokens could then pay those tokens forward to other people, effectively saying, thank you for allowing me to prosper and thrive. And I would like to say thank you and pass on this gratitude that the community has given me in recognition of the help that you've given me in the past. And because we're tracking contributions over time, and we also have a measure of how much the community appreciate them on multiple dimensions, we can also develop what we think of as expertise scores, so reputation profiles that show how and where people have contributed to their community over time. And this can then be broken down in any number of ways that really is up to the community to use, but could potentially become a platform for governance, or at the very least, giving recognition to those people who have earned respect of their community. And of course, you might be asking, well, what's stopping people from gaming this system? Well, the bedrock of our framework is the review process. And sure, people could bias this process and attempt to game the system. But the benefits of a radically transparent system is that all of that data will be transparent and available to analysis by the community. And so we can do interesting things like look at somebody's retest reliability and find out, are they actually doing this task properly, or are they just sitting there clicking buttons trying to earn tokens? And we can also look for outliers and bias and find those cases where somebody is particularly voting one person a lot of the time and find out what are the reasons for that, and are they just trying to cheat the system? And sure, people could get away with cheating for a brief period of time, but because there's an incentive built into this system to catch people who are cheating, then it wouldn't be long before the community figured it out, found them, and could effectively hand them a bill that equates to the total amount of damage that they have caused to the community. And finally, because this is an open science system, everything is transparent, everything is reliable and forkable. And so this means that anyone could take the processes to date, improve them in the way that they think are necessary, and then extend them to new use cases. And the real upshot of this system is what I think of as a decentralized job board. And you can imagine this as a list of all the tasks that need to be done, next to which is an approximation based on past data as to what the person would be rewarded if they were to complete this task. And this then creates an incentive across the entire process of the community for people to contribute in the ways that they want to. So as I mentioned, reliable reviews are the bedrock of this system, but it's not just reviews that we're incentivizing reliable reviews. And it might be that people get the rewards that people receive are scaled relative to their reliability or the quality of their reviews over time. We can also incentivize really low-level stuff like record keeping. So it's important to have a complete picture about all of the contributions. And so some people might earn rewards based on nominations for contributions that haven't yet been recognized by the community. This system also allows for diverse contributions. So those contributions that are typically externalized in the current modern day system, like healthcare, care of the environment, and so on. This framework can recognize and give those contributions the respect that they truly deserve. And it also then naturally invites experts who believe that they can help solve the community's current outstanding issues to get involved, knowing that they will be rewarded appropriately. Now, all of this is an open code system, and all of that code needs not only maintaining, but improving as we learn and improve over time. And so all of those updates would be incentivized, as would extensions of this framework to new communities. So someone might come along and realize that this framework is perfect for their sub-community and go through the effort of adapting it and applying it to that new use case. And so this is a picture for how the framework can work within one community. But if we zoom out, we can see that multiple communities can adopt the same framework and all benefit in parallel. So at we've started prototyping using gatherings. We're now exploring using the same framework for our co-living system and anticipate that over time, we'll just keep narrowing in to that version that is really working for us as a community. But in parallel, we've already started spawning these replications with the Amos conference I mentioned, and now the Vibe Camp conference. In June, I'll be presenting at another open science conference called SIPS, and expect that these collaborations will continue to spawn and each time merge and move into new fields throughout society and start to break down those silos that have kept those sectors of society from communicating effectively until now. And within each of those sectors of society, the people that are interested could then burrow into those particular niches that interest them, like the media or decentralized finance, or in my personal case, scientific communication. And so in summary, we have a framework here that's good for people. This is because anyone can contribute in the way that they want to, and including a maximally inclusive review protocol, which means anyone can sit at home and click buttons to earn tokens by reviewing contributions to their community. And the output of these reviews is a high quality information matrix, which people can create their own customizable filters to find the type of information that they really want. The benefit of this is that it's a trustworthy system. You can see what contributions have been rewarded in the past, and you can act accordingly. And when you earn more than you take from this community, you end up with an excess of tokens that you could then pay forward to other people that you wish to thank in turn. And It also allows people to earn the respect that they deserve by contributing consistent value to their community over time. So this framework is also good for communities. I think of what the output as being a decentralized job board, and this is maximally accessible so that anyone could come along and select those tasks that work for them. And because this is based on open science principles, it means that anyone can take it, give attribution, of course, and replicate and fork for their own use cases, extending the framework outwards. And in contrast to modern society, which tends to base everything around an economic system first and foremost, everything is tried to be leveraged into the value of a dollar. What we're doing is flipping that model, and we're starting with information first. And when we communicate the quality of information, we can then use that as a clean starting point to build a clean economic system and a clean governance system that are all based on open science principles. And so then if we zoom out, this framework is also good for the world, because ultimately what we're creating here is a universal digitally encoded language of gratitude that literally any community in the world could adopt. And although they might fork and they might add new layers of complexity to the fundamental model, as long as they are maintaining this same model, they would be speaking the same language as any other community that adopts it and could benefit from that communication layer accordingly. And finally, I just want to highlight that there is this growing concern around trustworthy AI. And when you look at modern AI systems, they are by and large trained on junk data. And that data is web scraped data. And when you consider that the internet is highly biased, but really was never designed to be a high quality data set from the outset, it's not surprising that we are now trying to retrofit trustworthiness into the AI that we're building. But on the flip side, if we start with a pure seed of an open science framework like this, and we build information from that premise, then the AI that we train out of these data sets will be trustworthy as well, because it will not only be high signal, but it will be signal that is embedded with the values that we want to put into it as humans. So of course we're interested in reliability and replicability, transparency, and so on, but also compassion, creativity, necessity, care and love for our fellow humans and the earth that we live on. And so if that became the training set for AI, I do believe that it would become trustworthy over time and embed the values of humanity into it. But I guess time will tell. And with that, I would like to thank everybody at who has contributed to this experiment. It's been a glorious 2.5 years and contributions on so many fronts that I really can't fit onto one slide. And also invite anyone that's interested in these ideas to reach out, because really the future is what we make it. And I look forward to oming with you. Thank you.